You are Soma. That night Soma competed in cooking with her father. Soma was quite confident but he lost in the end. His father is the main chef of this Yukihira restaurant. Soma lost nearly 500 times but he still did not give up. Soma sobbed and invited the judges to try this morning's creative dish. She thought she could get a delicious dish, but it was so horrible that she couldn't swallow. Soma's friends are always afraid that Soma will do that to them. Two identical father and son often try and fail. Soma's Yukihira restaurant is always crowded. They were about to clean the shop when the city manager came. The Soma family knew what they were coming for, so they were upset. Sake didn't stay long. She intended to clear this land as a commercial center. She left a business card, which Soma immediately threw into the coal pot. Sake turned to leave. Sake's juniors wanted to take drastic measures against the shop. The next day, on her way home from school, Soma received a phone call from her father. He was away, so he reminded Soma not to open the shop. By the way, his father asked about Soma's wish when he graduated from high school. Of course, Soma continued to study cooking. Soma still knows too little about her father. When he returned, he found that his house was a mess, apparently not a thief but someone broke it. Soma ran to the front, but the sign of his house was covered so the words could not be seen. Sake appeared sarcastic. She entered the house expecting to eat Soma's own cooking. As a chef, Soma talks about food, not anger. But on the condition that if he served Sake's taste buds, she had to promise never to come back and cause trouble. Sake turned to look at her juniors. They must have destroyed all the meat in the cupboard. Sake accepts the request. Then Soma brought up a plate of beef as requested by Sake. Sake gets angry when she learns that this dish is made from the wrong standard potatoes. Soma glared as she had to taste it to feel the taste. Sake tried it. It was so delicious. Soma smiled lightly. He wanted to hear the feeling. Sake's mouth sounds bad, but her hands can't stop. Soma got his plate back. He wanted Sake to swear not to disturb him from now on. Sake and the others made a quick vow and then had a beef platter party. Soma passed the test easily, then he repaired the sign of his house. This was the place where he practiced cooking that couldn't be destroyed by anyone. Immediately his father returned saying they would be closed for a few years. A friend asked him to work, so he returned to announce the closure of the store. Soma disagrees. He put his hand on Soma's chest. It's time for him to explore this vast world. According to Soma's father, he went to a culinary school. He went to the biggest building in the city, but this was only a place for security guards to sleep. The entrance area was 3 kilometers away. Soma wandered over, and many unusual things happened. He hurriedly called his father, who just informed him. The school he applied to Soma was Totsuki Academy, the leading culinary school in Japan. The graduation rate here was only 10%, it was completely different from Soma's imagination. Episode 2, his father's machine was too noisy, so Soma asked. He is currently at a 5-star restaurant in the US VIP area. To talk to Soma he hid outside. He wanted Soma to graduate from that school, or else don't dream of surpassing him. The secret to being a good cook is to find a woman that Soma wants to cook for the rest of her life. Before he could say that, Soma had hung up. At this time, the admissions area and the judges of the contest are too difficult. She knew that all the chefs serving her were from high-class restaurants. But standing in front of her was nothing but waste. She is the God Blade Nakiri Arena of this academy. Soma was quite overwhelmed with this school. Most of the students drove luxury cars and were accompanied by bodyguards. Soma was still thinking about his father's words. He accidentally bumped into an occupied chair. The other student happily befriends Soma. He introduces himself as Nakaido, whose family owns a large chain of restaurants. Soma also claims to have one. Nakaido talked happily. That's when Nakaido didn't know about the Soma family's casual restaurant. Nakaido felt dirty as he sat next to Soma. Soma angrily picked up Nakaido. Things became more and more complicated. At this moment, Arina appeared, making everyone pale. She introduced herself and the assistant was about to read the exam when Arina stopped her. She takes 1 egg. If anyone can make a dish with eggs to satisfy her taste, immediately gets accepted into the school. Everyone turned to run away, confusing Soma. Soma asked a person, who was pale, and told about Arina's background. Since childhood, she has been considered a god's taste buds. Her family dominates the worldwide culinary industry. Everyone here has their own restaurant. If Arina criticizes it as closed. Arina sighed as expected. No one was confident enough to stay in the exam. She was about to return when Soma spoke up. He wanted to start the exam now. Arena suddenly turned around. She still wanted to give Soma a chance to retreat. And Soma breathed a sigh of relief thinking he was eliminated. Soma understood the topic. He took the knife and started. Arena turned to look at the file. Soma has been cooking for 10 minutes and Arena still doesn't know what it is. Soma laughed when Arena didn't know what to eat. Arena was embarrassed but she wanted to know if it was luxurious enough for her to try. Soma said that and Arena angrily left. Soma kept, of course, that this was his own creation due to his adaptability. Soma finished. In the end it was still just an ordinary dish. Someone of Arena's class didn't have to try it. Soma smiled lightly and started her performance. Arena just looked at her and she started to feel different from before. Arena had to try a piece. Arena almost lost herself because it was so delicious. The secret here is the jelly meat, Soma began to explain. Arena took another bite. This time she fell to her knees. Soma wants to know Arena's assessment. Although she didn't want to admit it, but it was too delicious, Arena still held her opinion firmly. She got angry and left. She pulled out her phone to announce that no one had passed today. And Soma was dumbfounded when he found out that he failed the exam. Episode 3, in a remote countryside, Megumi is said goodbye by the villagers to go to Totsuki. She was very emotional, for sure next time she returned she would be a good cook. The first gathering of the year took place. Arena was honored to be the leader of all competitions to receive awards. She is so beautiful that the boys swoon. Then it was the turn of Principal Senseiman, who pointed at all the new students. Out of 99% of the students here, only 1% are qualified to become the jewels in the culinary world. He began to give an example. Last year the people who got to year 2 were very few and certainly this year too. He hopes everyone will strive to strive. Those who are incompetent are immediately expelled from school. Arena sneered. She felt sorry for people her age. Their fate is to compete for the top 2 because Arena always will win the top 1. Next is a transfer student. Arena is startled when it is Soma. Soma said he came here to get the top 1, making the whole hall angry. Soma entered the resort and met Arena. Arena still didn't know how Soma got here when he showed the certificate. Arena doesn't acknowledge Soma's talent and looks and leaves. Soma says he'll definitely make Arena say it's amazingly sweet. Senseiman heard him smirk. At the end of the gathering, the students were still talking about Soma, and Megumi was scared to sit in a corner. The first class took place. The students were annoyed to see Soma. He turned to look at Megumi, who kept writing letters in her mouth. Confused Soma asked Megumi. It turned out that just one more bad grade and Megumi would be expelled. Megumi's bad luck came right away. When in the first class she ran into Teacher Roland. Teachers with very strict standards, in his class only pass and fail. He gave all assignments with 2 hours to do. Seeing that Soma was quite confident, Megumi hoped she could pull something off. But this is Soma's first time hearing about this dish. Megumi had to make it herself. She watched every minute of the pot of beef. In the few seconds of carelessness when Soma called out to Megumi they were being played badly. Someone put salt in their post, they didn't have enough time to redo it. Now is the time for Soma to perform. Megumi trusts and supports Soma. The bad guys were so gloating they were sure Megumi would get an A. But in the end, Soma's group finished before them all. Soma brought the card up for Teacher Roland to evaluate. He tried it down and was immediately satisfied. The meat is very elastic and does not deform. He asked Soma about the composition and was pleased that Soma improvised well. Roland tasted it so well that he was ashamed that he couldn't give them a higher score. The other guys were busy worrying about how much money, so the pot of meat was burned, making sure they had a chance to get expelled. Megumi thanks Soma, taking the opportunity to get to know Soma for Megumi to taste her octopus dish. Megumi still didn't know about the horror of it, but thought Soma invited her special. She happily put it in her mouth and then realized that she was wrong to eat what others gave her so easily. Episode 4, Totsuki Academy is too big. Soma is exhausted while walking to the dormitory. He was so hungry that the horror octopus beard felt better now. Soma saw that the academy built so many monumental buildings that Soma thought the dormitory was the same. Soma froze when he saw that the dormitory where he would stay for 3 years was like an abandoned house. Soma walked in bewilderedly. He was startled when the loudspeaker roared loudly. There's a lot of mess going on. The hostess of the dormitory handled everything with one hand and then went out to greet Soma. Her name is Fumio. Soma paled when he saw that Fumio's aura was different from ordinary people. Mrs. Fumio mentioned about the preparation of the ingredients. It turns out that in the dormitory there is always a need for an entrance exam. If you don't finish you will have to sleep outside. There are not many ingredients left in the kitchen right now. Soma will take on this challenge even though he's hungry and tired. Fumio led Soma to the kitchen, which looked wild on the outside but very full on the inside. Fumio doesn't accept a simple dish Soma makes just to be accepted here. Soma took a look around the kitchen and started cooking. Fumio's eyes widened and it was clear that in the kitchen with only a few beef and eggs left, Soma could make a hamburger this big. Soma explains how. He made hamburgers not from beef but from canned mackerel. Fmio didn't believe her to try a piece, it was too delicious. Fumio switched to egg soup, which surprised Fumio even more. There is no seaweed in the kitchen, but Soma can make this dish. Fumio begins to adapt Soma's ability to transform. Eating in Fumio feels like being back to my first time. The day when she was young and for the first time Fumio asked a man to hug her. Soma was scared when Fumio was so absorbed. Soma passed the test. Fumio decided his room would be 303. Soma ran to take a shower. Fumio now remembers not to mention that Soma has a little girl using this bathroom. That person is Megumi. She is very afraid of Soma's dishes, but that's why she feels Soma is so approachable. While talking to the duckling, Soma came in, Megumi shouted. After taking a shower, Soma returned to her room. It was the first time he was away from home in 15 years, it was a new feeling. On the ceiling appeared a person that startled Soma. They were the members of the dormitory. They know Soma is a new member, so they throw a party to welcome him. The two dragged each other to Zenji's room. Although Zenji disagreed, he couldn't do anything. Megumi is also here. She is worried that Soma has seen it all and Soma finds it coincidental to be in the same dorm as Megumi. Megumi admires him for passing the exam on the first try. Ashiki welcomes Soma to the academy and they finish their glasses. The party took place. Soma integrated very quickly. He tried everyone's food. Soma also brought out his octopus beard, forgetting to mention that it failed. Mrs. Fumio sat in the next room watching the party. She was glad there were two things that never changed here. One is the laughter of the students, and two is the moonlight that illuminates this place. Episode 5. Soma is startled to learn that Ashiki is the decade of the 7th seed of Totsuki Academy. He invited Soma to taste his craft. Soma tasted the feeling of spring that popped up in his mind. After enjoying, Ashiki wanted to taste Soma's workmanship. Now Soma understood why his father sent him here, and Soma was ready to retaliate against Ashiki. Ashiki's dish is made from traditional mackerel. Soma decides to cook the secret dish from his Yukihira restaurant's menu. At this time, the drunken friends woke up. They didn't understand anything, so Ibasaki explained it. After a while Soma brought out 3 bowls. Yukihira's secret dish of mackerel onigiri. This dish was supposed to be made from salmon. Soma wanted to mutate and today he used mackerel. Ashiki looked at it different from the traditional way of cooking. I tasted a little bit, it was delicious. Ashiki only ate it once and knew that this was a French cooking method that surprised Soma. Yuki turns to blame Soma. He is the one who cooks and doesn't know it. Soma was bewildered by this cooking method he learned from his father. The taste of mackerel melts in the mouth with soft white rice grains. It's so delicious no one can resist. Ashiki was impressed. The two shook hands, causing Megumi to wake up in a daze. Marui's room was like a pile of trash, and they left. Ashiki officially recognized Soma as a member. Soma asks how to become a decadent, surprising Ashiki. He forgot about Soma's wish to climb to the top of the academy. Soma is still calm. The last match was a draw. If he can beat Ashiki, then the 7th seat will be his. Ashiki dashed to Soma with courage, but it's too early to let Soma experience it and then leave. The next morning Soma was waiting for Ashiki in the kitchen, and Ashiki apologized for not explaining enough to him. Arina is currently participating in a real battle to dissolve the sumo club. They don't agree with Arina's way of doing things. She's a capable person so she doesn't need to say much. Ashiki explained to Soma that in order to issue a challenge, there must be conditions. If both sides agree, the match will be held. In other words, if Soma lost, he would have to drop out of school. Mrs. Fumi shows off her many decades of background from this dormitory. Ashiki readily accepts Soma's challenge, but he doesn't want Soma to drop out of school. And now Arina easily defeated the sumo club person. They didn't believe Arina won and rushed to try Arina's food. The different level makes them lose their hearts to admire. Arina called to smash the sumo guild right after that. She was about to leave happily when the secretary mentioned Soma, infuriating her. Arina definitely had to get Soma out of the academy. Soma goes to school with Megumi. He also wanted to challenge Arina to a duel. Ashiki, observing Soma, thinks that Soma can be reconciled with him, is very strong. Ibasaki said that the last match Ashiki only played for was not his true strength. Ashiki definitely played hard. Ashiki thought that from the first time he tasted Soma's food, the feeling was so different from the rest. Surely Soma will stir up interesting wake battles throughout the academy. Episode 6, while sleeping, the voice of Senior Ashiki called Soma up to help him. Last night he stayed up late, so he told him to find someone else. After saying that, he fell back to sleep and Ashiki appeared on the ceiling like a ghost to wake him up. On the way to Ashiki, Soma meets Yoshino, who also wakes her up. Soma wondered what Ashiki wanted him to help, so he asked Yoshino. Turns out he wanted you to help him harvest vegetables. Soma was surprised because he didn't expect everyone here to look after the ingredients themselves. Yoshino smiled and said not only that but many other things. She raises chickens, and Ryuko owns a malt factory to create more dishes from malt. His friend Ibasaki makes sawdust to make smoked dishes. Come on, this is a whole field planted by Ashiki himself. Looking at it with all his eyes, every crime he is in harmony with nature should be he is selling his body and hoeing the ground. Megumi, dressed in a cute farmer's outfit, came over, holding a basket of freshly harvested vegetables. Ashiki took a tomato and gave it to Soma to taste. After that, he and the others gathered the ingredients. At breakfast time, Megumi called everyone to eat. Today's breakfast was prepared by her. There are 3 flavors of rice balls, green tea and barley tea. Must be said, it's delicious. In Tutsuki there are usually research societies, it's similar to the clubs in normal schools. But here they study new recipes and dishes. Megumi is at a local culinary research society. Soma went for a walk to see the research societies and then his gaze fell on the Dawn Research Guild. He asked Megumi to go see it with him. The leader of the guild saw the 2 people and chased them away because the guild was about to be disbanded. The reason was also arena. In the eyes of gourmets like her, Dawn is just a second-rate dish that is not worth looking at. She had cut the guild's expenses a long time ago. Now if the guild wants to revive, the guild leader must win the actual battle. But unfortunately the opponent was a meat master, Mito Ikumi. From elementary school, she always got perfect marks on meat dishes. Her family sells meat, so she always uses the best meat. It was a 5 black-haired beef. That alone was enough to defeat the guildmaster. At this time, Ikumi brought a few contractors to see the guild because he wanted to renovate. Guild Master Don stood up to protest but was quickly crushed by Ikumi. Soma wants to replace the guild master in the Shokugeki match against Ikumi. Ikumi immediately recognized him as a transfer student in the spring. She had wanted to talk to him for a long time. The condition of both is that if Soma wins, Ikumi must join the Dawn Guild. And if Soma loses, then he will leave Tutsuki. Ikumi retreated to wait for the duel day. Within 3 days Soma has to research and create delicious meat dishes that are really special. The subject is meat, that's Ikumi's forte. Ikumi will definitely use A5 beef, and you will have cheaper meat. But with Soma's talent and experience, he was sure he would win. 3 days passed, a lot of formulas were tested but still not working. Exam date is near, what will be the result?